I remember the day I woke up and discovered with a number of notifications on my mobile phone that my hero, David Bowie, had died. It was just a massive, massive thing for me. It's really difficult to explain. I try to do it in the play. And it is the event that brought about Can You Hear Me, Major Tom? Now, this is the David Bowie or Ziggy Stardust or Aladdin Sane that I kind of fell in love with, I guess, when I was a teenager, 13 or 14. And my affection for him has never changed. And so I produced a play, Can You Hear Me, Major Tom? I'll tell you the story of producing the play. It's quite an interesting one. When I've read you the review. Now, this is the review we got for it after we'd done it by our local paper. Lovely review. And my favourite line is, based on the words of a number of fans, including the writer Mark Wheeler, the resultant monologues were cleverly woven with words by Bowie himself to produce something that was witty, moving, and even profound. Wow, there we are. I was profound, finally. And this is the rest of the review. It's a celebration of his death as much of a celebration of fanhood, of the impact he had on the lives of those who adored his work, and I always was one of those. Director Lewis Evans. Lewis did it as part of our 006, Oasis Youth Theatre 006 scheme, where a young person took charge of a production entirely. I was busy in another room doing This Is For You. I'd pop in and watch little bits of their rehearsal, but Lewis did it on his own. He was 18 at the time. Great project for him to do. And he also cast it from friends of his, plus a couple of people who had been involved in OYT before. What a wonderful job. Director Lewis Evans forged a joyful, engaging and visually stimulating piece from what was essentially 7 players delivering monologues. I mean, that's what it is. And it forced a level of creativity that was fantastic from Lewis and the team. The cast all gave confident and deeply invested performances. The soundtrack to the action was, of course, a plus for any Bowie fan, but there were enough recognisable songs for even those with a passing interest. This was a fitting tribute to a notable cultural figure and a fitting final Mark Wheeler production with OYT. And it was indeed my final production. More of that in the next episode when I talk about the end of OYT, because it came to an end here. How did it begin? Well, I'd done Sequin Suits and Platform Boots and Ziggy's band before, which were a kind of tribute to David Bowie. So when he died, I thought, I've done my tribute, but I'd really like to do something else. I thought of This Is For You, but that was much more to do with Mick Ronson. But all sorts of friends of mine and people who were friends of friends. One guy was doing a film based on the guy in Milton Keynes who designed costumes for David Bowie. And I was hearing news of that from a lovely lady called Kaz Tricks. And I was thinking, I'm still not doing anything. Then I heard a guy called Andy down south was doing a fanzine. And wow, what a fanzine that ended up being. And they ended up being hugely supportive to us. But I still was doing nothing, and I kind of felt I wanted to. And Sequin Suits wasn't the thing that I wanted to do because it had become a glam rock thing. And then suddenly this happened. It was a 10 by 10 new writing festival. I only heard about it, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline. And they were doing a special David Bowie festival. So I thought, wow, what I'll do is get hold of some fans of David Bowie and write a verbatim play or a documentary play based on the memories of fans. And I wanted to have my voice in it so I could include myself as well and kind of hold the whole thing together. Where did I start? I started on Facebook. Lovely lady, Wendy. Wendy, who, there she is, in the Bowie bandstand that she has raised, well, together with Bowie fans, has raised an enormous amount of money, money that I said you'll never make in my head. I didn't say this to Wendy. Absolutely incredible achievement. So Wendy, at this point, was raising funds, and she also was a central figure on Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud Facebook page. So I just sent her a cheeky message saying, could you put me in touch with some fans, or could I post something, and would you be prepared to talk to me and give me your memories? So I got Wendy's story, I got my story. Wendy put me in contact with Mary Finnegan, who knew David Bowie, and she allowed me to use, there's Mary, she allowed me to use words from this book, great book, about her relationship with David Bowie at the time when he was writing Space Oddity, which is the Ground Control to Major Tom song, for those of you who aren't David Bowie fans and don't know that kind of slightly weird title for a very, very, very well-known song. So I got their stories. Then my daughter heard that I was doing this. So I did a small version of this without Mary. So with Wendy, myself, and maybe one other. Perhaps Kaz put me in contact with Jasmine, and we did just a very short 10. I did a very short 10-minute version. Sent it off to the Chesil Theatre thing, the theatre festival, and I think they had 200 and something entries. I didn't even get into the top 100. And having gone to see the plays that they did finally, and these were the final plays, I realised that what I had sent in was something very different to anything they would have known how to stage. These were much more traditional things, with people talking to one another on stage. And they would have looked at this and thought, whoa, we can't do it. But it gave me the stimulus to start doing something myself, and I knew we could do it. And I thought two halves, one with the Mick Ronson play and one with the Can You Hear Me Major Tom. It went through different titles. It was called Tigers on Vaseline at the point it was entered for that. And then it became Can You Hear Me Major Tom. So Lewis took charge of this and put on the production for me. Really, really lovely. So there's Ross, who was playing me, and this guy was a guy who, in real life, Daisy, my daughter, had met on holiday, and she said, Dad, you've got to talk to this guy because he's a proper David Bowie fan. Everybody called him Ziggy, that was his nickname, and he did an interview. I was allowed to speak to him. He did an interview with me, and he told me the story of how he had appeared on the Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars video, and then he suddenly didn't know he was on it, and it was on TV, and he saw himself, and he's quite an iconic moment in that film with the fans waiting outside the Hammersmith Odeon before the retirement gig. So he's got a great story to tell. Kate was Jasmine, and this was Wendy, and Alicia over there. She was, I can't remember who they all were, but they did the roles. And it was a beautiful production with a backdrop, a really simple backdrop of these big posters of David Bowie. Lewis did an absolutely grand job of directing these young folk, who were all kind of 16 or 17. And we did a production, we put it on, we presented it to an audience of people, but including Bowie fans. So we had a number of Bowie fans. We had the David Bowie Glamour magazine coming down to watch us. And that last night was my last night at OYT, was a perfect way to bow out with my hero, David Bowie. And so Can You Hear Me Major Tom, which is the bottom part of that poster, top part is This Is For You, became my swan song with OYT. And we'd got it on video. We really thought we were going to, we were going to be able to use it. And the next morning in Sainsbury's, I suddenly had a phone call from Mary saying, and she'd said the previous evening how much she'd enjoyed it, but she said, I'm really sorry to let you down, but I've been offered a film of my book, and I'm afraid you can't use the words. Now, I don't know what on earth happened in the interim, because she was super enthusiastic. But we couldn't do it. so it was stopped. All that work just suddenly dashed. She was the backbone of the play. And I was leaving Youthist, so I had nowhere to go. But I did have somewhere to go. And in the end, we came up with this, which was Can You Hear Me, Major Tom, Mark II. And you'll hear about that because this was actually my swan song from youth theatre, not OYT, but RSC OYT.